How do people feel about someone being charged with 2 murders when they kill a pregnant woman? For me, it depends on how far along the mother is. If the baby is viable and dies because of the murder, then yes, 2 lives were killed. If the mother was only, like, 6 weeks along, then no. But at the same time, I don't really care if a murderer gets extra charges tacked on. They murdered someone so they can rot. I think I've seen it charged and tried before as the non-consensual termination of a fetus, or something like that, and I thought that was a good way to phrase it. So let's take this the other way around. A woman who is pregnant is shot in the stomach and lives, but the baby dies. Is there anyone who is going to argue that it's murder or not murder depending on the stage of the pregnancy? Homicide is the #1 cause of death for pregnant women in the US. It causes more deaths than obstetric complications. I am pro-choice, but I'm okay with tacking on an extra murder charge to try to get this under control. In the case of Lacey Peterson, she was some 8 months pregnant. This was a wanted pregnancy and would have a wanted child had her husband not killed her. This is different from a woman choosing to end her pregnancy because she doesn't want to be pregnant, because her fetus has fatal defects, or because her health is at risk if she continues the pregnancy. I'm pro-choice, but I have 0 problems with piling charges on a murderer. I'm ambivalent on the question of when a fetus becomes a person, so I won't weigh in on that part. My personal opinion on the double murder would be impractical to put into law, but it's just my personal opinion without any weight or consequence. So here goes. Murder in which the accused was unaware of the pregnant status of the victim. Don't count the fetus as a person. Accidental murder, or murder caused by general negligence. Don't count the fetus as a person. Murder in which the accused was aware of the pregnant status of the person. Double whammy. Internet opinions don't matter and have no effect on the outside world. So I'm not really interested in hearing about how what other people value is superior to my own personal values. So I won't be responding to anybody wanting to explaining how I'm wrong. Just getting this out there. BC, this is Reddit, and I can already smell the down votes from both sides for my somewhat middle-of-the-road opinion. She was 8 months pregnant, not 5 weeks pregnant. She was about to give birth soon. The baby is a person at that point. You cannot get an abortion at that point unless it's a life or death situation. Odds are the mother intends to carry the baby to term. So yeah, double murder. You're responsible for taking 2 lives, so yeah, 2 murders. It is because there is reasonable expectation of life. Nothing to do with how far along someone is or what their future plans are. There's a big difference between making the choice to terminate and being the victim of someone taking that choice away. The owner of the womb in question is the only person that has, or should have, the right to choose to abort. Could you imagine getting pregnant? You're so happy to start a family, then someone murders your pregnant wife and your child isn't even recognized in the situation. I feel it is absolutely justified that a murderer gets charged with ending 2 human lives. That is what they have done. That is the charge they deserve. It's fine. I'm very pro-choice, and it's not incongruent with my beliefs to allow fetuses some rights, such as the right to justice if they fall victim to some crime, so long as those rights don't supersede the autonomy of their incubator. I might be a bit unusual in taking this stance, but my support for abortion has nothing to do with whether or not the fetus is alive. Abortion is still acceptable even if the fetus is alive. I realize that sounds terrible, but bear with me. If we take a step back from the abortion-specific debate, it might make a little more sense. You don't get to use someone else's body without their consent, not for any reason. And not even if you might die without it. There are lots of people who die because they need kidney transplants and there aren't enough kidneys to go around. Lots of people die because there isn't enough blood for transfusions in the case of emergencies. These are both problems that could be solved if we could force people to provide the use of their bodies to other people, if we could force people to donate blood or organs. We could legally require that everyone donate blood. In fact, if we want to make it properly equivalent to pregnancy, we could even require that people donate blood if they're not healthy enough to do so safely. Pregnancy is quite dangerous, so as long as the mortality rate of forced blood donations doesn't exceed the maternal mortality rate, we're being consistent. I seriously doubt many people would view that as acceptable. In my view, abortion shouldn't be treated any differently from this. For what it's worth, I'm not saying that life begins at conception or anything. I don't personally think it does. I just don't think it matters when I personally think life begins. Even if we assume life begins at conception, abortion is still acceptable, because nobody gets to use your body without your consent. But this is also why I view it as perfectly reasonable to charge a murderer with 2 murders if they murder a pregnant person. As a general rule, taking a life is murder. We carve out specific exceptions to that rule. Self-defense is one. But so is refusing to donate the use of your body to someone who needs it. The second exception covers abortion. You could, of course, make the argument that this is a case when, legally, we would need to decide when a fetus counts as being alive. Does it count as 2 murders if the pregnancy is only a month old? I think it feels pretty intuitive that it should be 2 murders if the pregnancy is 9 months along. But where's the line? Again, I don't personally think it matters. Because the actual harms of murder are the same, regardless of whether or not the fetus is alive yet. That's still years of life that might have been lived, and now won't be because of the murderer. And sure, you could say that the fetus might not have lived. Maybe the mother was planning to abort. Or maybe the fetus wasn't going to be viable. But that's hardly relevant. It's not like the legal system would be nice to a murderer whose victim was a cancer patient just because they might have died soon anyway. Ignoring the issue of assisted suicide, of course. But that's quite different because the victim gives their consent in that case. At best, you could make the argument that the murderer should be charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of manslaughter. I'd be open to hearing that argument. But the point is, they definitely should be charged with something technically correct and morally correct to punish because of the double murder. Baby is a human being too, and unfairly affected and died as the mother was murdered. I think it should be it's 2 humans. If it means murderers get more time, hell yeah. Personally, I think it's hypothetical. If you are in a state that allows abortions, they obviously don't see the child as a human. That's why they allow the mother to kill it if they want. Yet if someone kills a pregnant mother, then all of a sudden they consider that unborn kid a person. I think you should get charged with double murder after a certain point, and you shouldn't be able to abort after that point either. Yep, totally for it. Though, I also believe that life begins at conception, so.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.